We have the latest from a weekend at Islanders camp, plus prospect Arnaud Durandeau gunning for a roster spot, and an analysis of Noah Dobson, his expectations for the year, and what it'll mean for the New York Islanders. All this and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. You can also find us now on the SXM app of SiriusXM. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. Just wanted to make a quick note to everybody who may be watching the premiere of this on YouTube. I am not going to be taking part in the chat tonight or at midnight on Sunday/Monday because of Yom Kippur. So this episode was recorded a little bit earlier on Sunday just because of the holiday, and I will be back in the chat room on Monday night/Tuesday morning as usual. If you've got something Islanders related on your mind, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnIsles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders throughout the preseason, training camp, the regular season, and really all year round. We are here every Monday through Friday, except for a brief period of the offseason, bringing you the best in daily Islanders content. All right, so training camp over the weekend, always stuff going on. And as far as the New York Islanders are concerned, they made a few announcements, and it's always good to go over some of them. And one of them is the health of a few of the players. J.G. Pageau missed Friday's practice with what was described as an illness. He returned to practice on Saturday, so that was certainly good news. And then Kyle Palmieri also not practicing. He is yet to practice Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. He has missed the first 3 days of training camp. Now, again, the Islanders officially saying it's not serious. The official website even listed it as, and I'll put this in air quotes, maintenance. But again, there really was no appearances yet by Palms on the ice. And the goaltending rotation also moving along on Saturday. Henrik Tikkanen came in with Semyon Varlamov in one group, while Tristan Lennox and Ken Appleby ended up being in group 3, which was not the blue group or the white group. So there are 3 groups going on right now in training camp. And so that's just some of the news. There was indeed a scrimmage on Saturday. So again, the team really trying to get ready for everything in training camp and gear things up for preseason. And look, the first preseason game, Tuesday night. It's tomorrow, and can't wait for that. Islanders, Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, it is televised, which to me is also good news. So the Islanders almost ready to get things started in the regular season. Another one of these articles came out, by the way, last week, and I just wanted to touch on it briefly at the end of this segment. Yahoo Sports, they had a writer who listed the least watchable NHL teams entering the 2023-2024 season. And the subhead is, unless you're a dedicated fan of one of these clubs, it's best to avoid watching them play hockey at all this season. And so they listed the Montreal Canadiens, the St. Louis Blues, the San Jose Sharks, the Philadelphia Flyers, and then, of course, your New York Islanders. And here's what was written in the article. The Islanders aren't bad by any means. This is a team that made the playoffs in 2022, 2023 after all. They just play low event hockey, and their best player by a significant margin is their goaltender. Watching Ilya Sorokin stand on his head can be fun at times, but it's hard to predict which games that will happen in, as the Islanders are a middle-of-the-pack, solid shot possession squad that doesn't always need him to excel. Bo Horvat adds a little spice to this team's attack, but he's not exactly a showstopper, and he struggled to adjust to his new team last season. There's not a lot of novelty outside of the former Canuck and superstar Matt Barzal on that squad. Not helping matters is the fact that the Islanders' most notable transactions in the offseason were extensions for their own players. So still not a lot of respect from the national media. And, you know, basically this writer, Nick Ashbourne, listed the five most boring or uninteresting teams in the NHL, and the Islanders were the first one that he listed. And, you know, if I'm the New York Islanders, the one thing that I want to do with this is just prove everybody wrong. And the way you prove everyone wrong is not to be exciting. It's not to go out there and win games 7-5, because that's not the way this team is built. And that's not the way this team is going to play. And that's not what's going to make this team successful. The way you prove everybody wrong is to be a team that is good enough that it doesn't matter how exciting, and again, I'll use the air quotes, it doesn't matter how exciting this team is. So to me, you got to go out there and play your style of hockey, win games efficiently and consistently. And if you've got, 95, 100, 105 points on the season, nobody is going to care all that much about the style points you used to get there. And I think most importantly, that includes Islander fans. If the Islanders win a lot of 2-1 games, but they end up being, clinching a playoff spot early, not being a wild card team this year, or just being consistent winners, I think what you'll see is people will be happy, and they will fill the stands at the UBS Arena. And, I think Lane Lambert will be happy. The players will be happy. Lou Lamoriello will be happy, and nothing to worry about. So I think style points are a little bit overrated. And the important thing for the New York Islanders is to win. And we noticed last year that early in the season, the Islanders were doing pretty well. And then after Mathew Barzal got injured, they went into a bit of a slump. But that's when they made adjustments. And they went from trying to have the defenseman pinch and move up and get into play a little bit more to playing more of the Barry Trotz stand back check, be positionally sound. And no, it may not be exciting hockey, but it is winning hockey. And that's what this team did in order to reach the playoffs. I get the feeling that they are going to do that again this year, because that is the way they're going to win hockey games. And if they are winning hockey games, most Islander fans are not going to care about style points along the way. All right, we have got a lot more to get to on today's episode. We're going to talk about one of the young prospects in Islanders camp who is trying to get a full-time role in the NHL, Arnaud Durando. We also have Noah Dobson's outlook, and for our Islanders birthday of the day, a forward from the mid to late 80s who basically spent all of his NHL career with the New York Islanders. We've got that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical, and we're talking today about the Jace case. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation, the licensed pharmacy medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. You can get $20 off of these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Check it out. So we're going to focus in now on one of the Islanders' young prospects who is gunning for a spot on this roster. And we're going to talk a little bit about Arnaud Durando because, you know, we've talked about the Islanders needing to find someone to take the place of Zach Parise on that third line. And I think Arnaud Durando would be a very, very good option. He's 24. And, you know, the other thing that we've talked about is the desire for this team to get younger, faster, and more skilled. Well, I think Arnaud Durando would check 2 of those boxes. He would make this team younger, and he certainly has speed. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that Durando has hustles a lot. And, you know, he came up for, 4 games last season, hustled, looked like he was creating offense and really did a solid job. Wasn't intimidated by being in the NHL, created some scoring chances. How good was he? Well, during the first 2 days of practice, Lane Lambert had Durando skating on the top line with Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal. And somebody asked him why, and here's what Lane Lambert said: I like his speed. And when he gets an opportunity, he has the ability to score, and he's proven that the last couple of days. Now, at Bridgeport last year, 68 games, 24 goals, and 31 assists. That is all career highs for Durando. He's a 6th-round pick dating back to 2017. And, you know, he played when he was called up alongside Hudson Fasching, who was also a teammate of his down in Bridgeport. And for Durando, you know, he had 9 shots in those 4 games. We know the Islanders need to have more speed. We know they need players who are not afraid to shoot the puck. Durando fits that to a T, and he makes this team younger. And obviously, there's 2 ways to go about it. Durando could win a job right out of training camp, be on that third line. I mean, Fasching, Durando, and Pajot would be a very good third line if Fasching and Durando could each give you 15 goals. But the other alternative is he goes down to Bridgeport and ends up, you know, being one of those first guys to be called up if there's an injury. We know, for example, Cal Clutterbuck has been dealing with injuries a lot over the last 2 or 3 years. If Clutter goes down, I think you could plug Durando in on the 4th line. And then you also have that possibility of him being on the first line like he was the first couple of days of practice in training camp. I doubt he ends up as the first line winger with Barzal and Horvat, but we'll see. Meanwhile, you know, Durando, talking to the Hockey News, he had a lot of good things to say about his 4 games in the NHL. It was a great time, he said. It was a dream come true, and now I want to get back there. So I think I really am just trying to be consistent every day. That's mostly what you got to do. You've got to work hard and not just one game and then be off the next game. So just every game, just skating hard, just doing your job, and just doing what you're good at and bringing it every game. And I think, part of the reason that Durando may have a good chance at getting a spot on this team or being one of the first call-ups, it's similar to what Simon Holmstrom did to get in the lineup last year. And that is, he's sound defensively. He'll back check. He doesn't make those mistakes that create scoring opportunities for the other team. And that's what ended up getting William Dufour benched when he had his one NHL game last year. That's the kind of thing that had Oliver Wahlstrom in and out of the lineup, or during his first season with the Islanders, even though he's a defenseman. Noah Dobson was in and out of the lineup because of what did or did not happen on the defensive side. Or Joshua Hosang, who never really cracked the lineup because he never learned what to do without the puck. So this is why I think Durando has a very good chance, or a better chance than most, anyway, of trying to crack the lineup. He talked about Durando skating with Horvat and Barzal. It's been great. Just two great players. I'm just trying to do my best for them and just learn the most I can with them, just seeing how they play, how they think, and how they play fast. And that's what I want to bring to my game too. So, here is Arnaud Durando battling for one of those roster spots. Look, the fact that he's been practicing with Bo and Barzy, they're giving him a look there. And I think it's because his skill set fits there. Now the question becomes whether he's consistent enough and has enough offensive potential to stick with these guys. And look, if you can't provide even a modicum of offense with Bo and Barzy on this roster anyway, I don't see where else you're going to get it done. So let's see what Arnaud Durando does. But he started out training camp with Bo and Barzy on that top line. Maybe, just maybe, he's got a little bit more to show everybody. And if he does, well, that could bode extremely well for the future of Arnaud Durando. I have always liked this kid. The 4 games that he played, he really was exciting to watch and added a little life, a little spark to the Islanders. So let's see if he can do that on a consistent basis and earn a roster spot. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We will continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders roster, what they need to do this season, and how they fit into the team's success. We're going to talk about Noah Dobson today. We've got that plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is just so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options like point spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. And, you could bet on the NFL. You have the Major League Baseball playoffs coming up. NHL futures. You could use your knowledge of the Islanders and the NHL to have some fun and maybe win some money on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. So we continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders roster. Every day, as you know, we've talked about Cal Clutterbuck on the last show. Well, today it's Noah Dobson. 23 years old. He'll turn 24 in January. First-round pick of the Isles back in 2018. Coming off a 49-point season. 13 goals for the second straight year. 36 assists, played in 78 games. He was a +4, only 20 penalty minutes. And, does some things on the power play. 5 power play goals, 14 power play assists. So you see he's on there a lot. I guess he needs to be a little sharper with a couple of things. And a lot of fans were very critical of Noah Dobson last year. And GM Lou Lamoriello came to his defense in his offseason press conference back in June. Dobson is still learning. 23 for a defenseman is exceptionally young. And the two areas that I think Dobber needs to work on the most. Number one, he needs to work on getting the puck out of his own zone and transitioning from defense to offense. Too many turnovers, too many poor decisions, and not enough cool under pressure in clearing the puck and starting the transition. And then the other is quarterbacking the power play. I think that overall, if you look at last year, while he did have 5 power play goals and 14 power play assists, so that almost 40% or so of his points came with the extra attacker. As a power play quarterback, he's not great at skating or passing the puck into the offensive zone, and he doesn't really move the puck the way ideally you would like him to move the puck as a member of the power play of the quarterback of the power play. And Sebastian Aho actually did a better job of that as far as schematically is concerned. He may not have the skill set of a Noah Dobson, but he was smarter with the puck than Dobson. And in the last playoff game, we saw Aho move up to the top power play unit. So those are the two areas that Dobson needs to concentrate on to get himself from a pretty good offensive defenseman with potential to being, a guy in the conversation for an all-star berth, or maybe at least a guy in conversation for a 55, 60-point season and being considered a great two-way defenseman. Because let's face it, on the New York Islanders, under Lane Lambert and under Lou Lamoriello, you are not going to get the confidence of this team. You are not going to get the coaching staff behind you. You're not going to get that maximum ice time unless you are responsible in your own zone. And if you're constantly coughing the puck up and making mistakes, you will not get out on the ice as often as you want. And look, Dobson, if he maximizes his potential, can become a top pair defenseman, a power play quarterback, and a really good player. But if he can't get the job done in his own zone, he will always be, at best, a second pair guy, or maybe even a third pair guy who sees a lot of action on the power play. This is very much a crossroads season for Noah Dobson, and he needs to get things going. It's not like if he doesn't do it this season, it's do or die and Dobber will be gone. No, nothing like that. But you want to see him take those steps. And Dobson has 2 years left on this bridge contract that he signed. So this year and next year, $4 million a year, then he becomes a restricted free agent. The key for him is that either this year or next year, he's got to make that jump. Otherwise, you get to the point where you say, you know what? He is what he is. We'll pay him for what he is. But the ceiling that we had hoped for, it may not be there. So key season or two for Dobber. And obviously, because the Islanders don't have an alternative at offensive defenseman, they're going to live and die with what Dobson does, and it's going to be important. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 59th birthday of former Islanders winger Dale Henry, 8th round pick by the Isles in 1983, a native of Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Scored 41 goals and had 162 penalty minutes in his last year in juniors with the Saskatoon Blades. Made his Islanders debut in 84-85, played 16 games, had 2 goals and 3 points, was with the Islanders, splitting time between the NHL and the AHL through the 89-90 season, then ended up playing the rest of his career in the minor leagues or in Europe, and even played in Roller Hockey International during the 1995 season. Had 33 points in 24 games for the Oklahoma Coyotes. In 132 career NHL games, all with the Islanders, 13 goals, 39 points, 263 penalty minutes, had 14 NHL playoff games, all with the Isles, and did score 1 goal. We go back and look at one of his better games with the Islanders, March 9th, 1985. And in this one, it's the Islanders hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs at the Nassau Coliseum. Ken Reggett, the goalie for the Leafs, battling Billy Smith, the Hall of Famer, in goal for the Islanders. And in this game, Dale Henry ends up scoring his very first NHL goal. It comes late in the first period. Roger Kortko and Ken Morrow get the assist. Islanders end up winning this one by a score of 4-2. Henry had 2 shots on goal in this game. And yeah, his goal was the game winner. 39 saves for Billy Smith. The Islanders outshot 41-35 in what was a wide open contest. Ken Morrow, by the way, 3 assists in this game. So Dale Henry, a guy who never fully established himself as an everyday NHLer, but played a role on the Islanders for about 5 years on and off in the late 80s. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we will again have the latest news from Islanders training camp. We'll get you ready for the first preseason game, and we will continue our one player a day look at the Islanders roster. We will take a look at Scott Mayfield. All that and more on tomorrow's show. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Those of you who are observing the holiday and fasting, have a light and meaningful fast. Take care, and thanks again for listening to the Locked On Islanders podcast. And oh yeah, let's go Islanders.